Shout out to G-Man Boxing. Where's the piss bottle? It's over there.
Alright people, today it was announced the price for the Tyson Fury Dillian Whyte fight. To many people's, I want to say surprise, but probably many people weren't so surprised, BT Sport raised the price. They've raised it to $24.95 in pounds, roughly in euros, I would say it's about 30 quid. Because if a pay-per-view in the UK is £20, it's roughly €27 over here. So it's in around that ballpark. Is anyone surprised? I mean, me personally, not really. It's been something that they've been doing with AJ. You see, I think the thing with AJ that pissed a lot of people off was they raised it with Ruiz, the rematch. And you can kind of understand that, to an extent, because it was such a big kind of deal. And then they kept it at that for the Pulev fight, which no one really... I personally didn't care too much for that fight. For me, it was a fairly routine title defense for AJ. Obviously, it was again for Usyk. It's probably going to be again this time around. The rematch, more than likely, is going to be on Sky. So it's kind of been a recurring thing with AJ. It kind of does depend on the nature of the event. And you got to remember as well, Frank Warren has put in 40 odd million into this fight, allegedly from his own money. I say that because, look at the state of some of Queensbury boxing shows, other than the big one like this. You kind of wonder, did he really just put it all on black? Or what did he do? Because there's a show coming up, I believe, on the 16th. But it was on the 16th. And honestly, until today, and I think today I only heard about it because someone pulled out, I had literally no earthly idea this card was even going ahead. There was even a card on the 16th. Apparently it's a Queensbury card on BT Sport. Again, had no idea. That's the few Queensbury cards now that have been on over the last couple of weeks, where me and several others have literally found out at the 11th hour, BT Sport are showing a fight card? Really? That's kind of how poor some of the standard Warren cards have been. In terms of everything, maybe because I don't watch BT Sport in general, I like football, but I don't be the biggest football. Maybe that's why I'm not fully aware. But even to Twitter and stuff like that, you would expect, to be kind of thinking in advance, of these announcements and things. You didn't see anything. But anyway, this is going to be a price increase. Am I surprised? As I said, not really. What a few people are saying is that why is there no undercard? They're increasing the price with just no undercard. And the long and the short of it is, main event is really what people are going to be wanting to see. They want to see Tyson Fury. They want to see Dillian Whyte. That's the main event. That's what they want to see. In terms of the undercard, we're 3 weeks out with Isaac Lowe, and I don't believe he's got an opponent announced yet. I mean, that's it. That's it. Events like this, certainly when they're in Wembley, when they're big events, undercards are normally garbage. Normally always garbage. There are some exceptions, very rare exceptions. I'll give you an example. AJ when he fought Klitschko. That was the AJ Klitschko show. That was what that was. That was the AJ Klitschko show. That undercard had very few fights on it. Remember that now. That had hardly any fights. That had some matchroom prospect who got knocked out. Katie Taylor fought on it before she was world champion. I think it was only her third or fourth pro fight. Luke Campbell fought Dallas Perez. I think Scott Quigg fought someone in the co-main event. 4 fights. None of them were memorable. None of them you're going back and saying, do you remember when Luke Campbell fought Dallas Perez? God, I gotta rewatch that fight. No, you're not doing that. But you're thinking about the main event. You're thinking of the main event. I was listening to Ade was saying, do you remember the Canelo Golovkin 2 undercard? Yeah, that actually wasn't a bad undercard. That was one of the few Canelo undercards where it actually had some depth in it. That wasn't a bad undercard, to be fair, by Canelo standards. You had Chocolatito Gonzalez. He fought some guy. It was his comeback fight. Can't remember his name. Cannot remember his name. But he wasn't a bad fighter. He wasn't a world beater, but he wasn't a bad fighter. You had Munguia versus Brendan Cook. That was a mismatch. At the time, it was viewed as competitive. You had Spike O'Sullivan versus Lemieux. I remember Hatman was picking Spike O'Sullivan to win that fight. With the benefit of hindsight, standing in front of David Lemieux, I mean, you're just asking for trouble. But in all fairness, that's not a bad card, all things considered, for such a big event. It was the Canelo Triple G show with a fairly decent undercard, it has to be said. So that's a rarity, though. Very rare. You tend to get that. I mean, as I said, some of AJ's undercards, very much a hit and a miss with the kind of depth of talent that you get on it. Earlier on in his career, you would tend to get a few better ones because AJ was making the lion's share of the cash, but it wasn't blow your mind kind of money, that sort of way. It was kind of like, oh geez, he's making a lot of money, but also the undercard was kind of decent enough to kind of later on, this is kind of when you more start to see kind of bit of a crappier undercard. As I said, going back to this topic, the reason probably why we'll get an announcement on the undercards. Don't expect any more than, I'd say, 6 fights, if even. Seriously, if even. Expect, I don't even think we're going to get another 12 rounder on this card. I think this is going to be the only 12 rounder. Wouldn't be surprised if we get a 10 rounder and a couple of 8 rounders. And we're going to have guys probably like David Adelaide. I wouldn't be surprised if he's on it. Dennis McCann probably too soon after his last fight. Obviously Isaac Lowe. Would he take Anthony Yard and just give him a little run out? It's in Wembley. Anthony Yard's from London. Would he just give Yard a run out just to kind of dust off some of the cobwebs? And maybe just because, people know who Anthony Yard is, maybe he'll bring some extra fans over. I don't know. Maybe they would. But Warren's stable is not a who's who, realistically. It's pretty much a who's he. Apart from Dubois, Yard, Fury. Nathan Heaney is actually a good ticket setup. I believe he's fighting on the 16th, so he won't be on that card. After that, then you're really kind of... Frank Warren is I don't know if he's lost these fighters per se, or they're working with Pro Bellum as well as Queensbury, because I know Edwards was a Frank Warren fighter, as far as I know. It split from him, unless someone wants to correct me, and he's just with Pro Bellum now, as too as people like Sam Maxwell and people like that. I believe they're fighting... Is it this week they're fighting, or is it next week? It's the end of the month. Sorry, it's the end of the month. That's in I think that's in Liverpool or Bolton or somewhere like that. But anyway, I'm going off topic again. Back to this, the price increase. See, it's a time now where people, I've said about Sky, I've said it about DAZN and things like that. People don't have as much disposable income as they did 3 years ago, and there's a reason for that, obviously. But would that be would some people look at that and say the increase is so much so that they wouldn't buy it? I doubt it very much, but you never know. I mean, to some people, £5 could be the difference. I don't know what people's financial state is like, and if you are privileged enough to be able to afford it, even if you could say it's only £5, to some people, as I said, that's a lot of money, in the grand scheme of things. I always look for a good undercard. I'm one of these guys, if I'm ever going to an event, I go early so I can get the undercard. I like seeing a good undercard, but I'm not going into this expecting miracles. So I'm not expecting 50-50 fights on the undercard, prospect against, tough gatekeeper or something. I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting fairly basic mismatches culminating in the main event, which is the fight we all want to see. I do wonder, I think we're going to get this fight, have no doubt about that, but a part of me is just kind of like, what if an injury comes up on either guy? And when I say injury, I mean injury comes up on either guy and this fight gets pushed back a bit, or it doesn't happen at all. That is a kind of worry that's in the back of my mind, but I genuinely do think this fight is full steam ahead. It's going to happen. I really do. 3 weeks out, I do think it's full steam ahead. It's going to happen. I just top of the undercard, don't expect much in terms of the pricing. As I said, most people will be wanting just to watch the main event. They'll be tuning in for the main event. I'm going to pay for this. I'm going to do a watch along, obviously. It's going to be a big night for a lot of YouTubers watching this. So obviously I'll be paying for it, so I'll be able to look across and I won't have to be looking down at my phone the whole time. But yeah, to be expected, I guess is the best way to say it. We kind of all expected that this fight would be dearer. As I said, Warren is trying to recoup some of the money he's paid out. It's a massive amount of money, 40 odd million. Lion's share is going to Fury. Whyte's not getting chump change either. He's getting his career high payday as well. So obviously Warren is thinking, I need to see that money back. I need to see that money back in my pocket because I've given it to these guys and I really need to be recouped big time. If it's believed, as I've no reason to doubt it, that the ticket sales are as good as they are, it'll probably do good numbers on pay-per-view, I would imagine. Both guys are known very well in the UK. And I guess at the end of the day, I've said this before, and I've said it before about even fights, you know, in the US, when I talk about them being on pay-per-view, and I say, do you know what, we might moan about like a 25 quid card and stuff like that with AJ and stuff like that, but in the grand scheme of things, we're not getting charged 70, 80, sometimes 100 quid for a pay-per-view. That's hard. I think, wasn't Andy Ruiz and Ariel on pay-per-view, wasn't that like 80 quid, 70, $80? When you think about that, just imagine, as good a fight as this is, and as good a fight as AJ Usyk 2 would be, can you imagine the backlash if Sky or BT charged 80 quid for that? I mean, the pitchforks would be at the ready and someone's head's going to roll. That is literally what would happen if that was the case. If they said, right, pay-per-view's coming, it's going to be a price increase, it's a 30 quid. Well, if you want to add 50 to that, you know, an invisible 50, then yeah, it's 30 quid. But it's actually 80 quid. Not with that leaving your bank account. Yeah, there'd be riots. Believe me, that wouldn't go down well. So I guess in some ways we kind of have to look and say, well, at least we're not paying that much. But look, the main event of this fight is great. I expect a good fight. I'm not expecting miracles on the undercard, and I think we need to be realistic in that sense. It's just, especially with 3 weeks out, they're not going to announce some big WBA world title fight, you know, at 100, you know, like Daniel Dubois and Trevor. Not going. Well, that's not big actually, to be honest with you, but you know what I mean. You get the analogy. They're not going to announce any big major competitive fight on the undercard. I can't see it. It's going to probably be a name knocking over some journeyman, or a name to be, you know, this is his kind of like the big stage opportunity, you know, on a big stage anyway. That's really all it's going to be, I would imagine. So, not expecting miracles there. For now, lads and lasses, I'll leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know where you're going to pay for it. And let me know where you, like me, I already talked about it in Review of the Week, but I said I'll touch on it more in-depth in this video. Are you like me, where it's like, I know we're not going to get a decent undercard. I'm accepting that. It is what it is. Let me know what your thoughts are. At the end of the day, the main event is the fight that I'm just like, give me this. I want to see it. I'm expecting fireworks. I'm expecting a fight we're going to talk about for many, many, many weeks to come, and probably a lot longer than that. That's the fight I'm interested in. Let me know in the comment section. I'll leave you with that. Smash the like button. 40 subs off 7k. Let's do it. Let's see if we can do it by the end of the week. I've done much higher numbers than that in a week before, so I'm sure we can do it this week. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Hope you enjoyed it, lads and lassies. Peace.